All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Design Dialogue. Hope everyone has a great time, no matter what part of the world you are joining from. And today we have a very interesting topic to discuss: product design job market in 2024. And we have a very special guest, Tom Scott, the founder of Verified, a company who hires the top 1% designers and engineers for companies. So, hi, Tom. How are
Hey,
you?
yeah, good. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining, and yeah, great to have you here. Do you mind starting with a short intro?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in design recruitment now for about just under 10 years. In that time, I've also built my own design consultancy called Fearless, which was sort of talent and design services, which I sold in April 2023. And in August last year, I set up Verified, which is an invite-only talent network where we pre-vet and interview everyone that comes in. And then so it's a better streamlined process for clients and also candidates as well. So that's been around for about 7 months, so just in sort of the early phases. And we're navigating quite a crazy design hiring market right now. So I'm excited to dive into that today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, you have a great experience talking, I would say, through both sides, like talking with designers, talking with companies, and yeah, exploring the market. So product design job market, yeah, early 2024. How can you describe the current market situation for product, UX, UI designers, and all these like related professionals?
Yeah, I think compared to 2021 and 2022, when companies were sort of like, printing money, it seemed, and there was a lot of design research being hired. I think now we're seeing a lot of companies look for more senior lead principal staff ICs and sort of not really focusing too much on junior to mid levels because they feel they bloat out teams. A lot of companies, so they're doing more with less essentially. So design operations, design systems are becoming a huge thing. I've also seen in certain design roles such as content design, AI being utilized more, and the roles are changing. Don't need as many content designers, which has been really quite eye-opening. I think in terms of product design, UX, UI skill sets, I'm seeing definitely more of a shift towards generalist product designers. That whole thing, do more with less. So we need that classic unicorn type designer. So can do good discovery UX work, but can also have an appreciation for nice looking visual design as well. So yeah, I can go into more specifics if you want, but I think to recap, I think more senior people seem to be more in demand, and a shift towards end-to-end product design. So, for example, I put out there's a role that we're hiring for right now, like an IA UX role, and 90% of people that reached out were product designers, UI UX. They're sort of selling themselves in that sense, and we didn't actually need someone there, but it seems like there's more of a shift towards product design, end to end.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also see this on the market. Why do you think it can happen? Like, is it just because economic situation and companies are trying to reduce cost, having all these like specialists inside the teams, like UX designers, UX researchers? I remember this time a couple of years ago when we had like a lot of this special profile inside the company. For example, when I worked on my previous company at big bank, we even had a person for customer recruitment. So we had a person who recruited users for
Yeah,
our interviews. And yeah, that's interesting
yeah.
how it's been transforming now.
Mm. Yeah, I think a few things. I think definitely the whole do more with less. So we need more with less, essentially. Um, so less positions, so we need more people that can do a broader amount of work. I think the whole product versus design thing, I think for a long period of time, But personally, I don't think the design industry has done a good enough job of selling in the business value of design as a whole. And so whereas product managers, product owners have, and so product managers are doing UX, they're doing the research. And so, a lot of companies just think, oh, they need a visual designer or someone that can do a little bit of UX to get things out and execute, rather than seeing the true value of UX research, service design. I mean, service design is strategic designers are struggling a little bit more than they were. And I also think companies who don't really understand what design is, so it's not just, beautiful pixels on a screen. It's design is everywhere. And so I think, especially in startups, you're seeing a lot of people get hired as the sort of the head of design who come from a visual design background and agency background. So they're naturally not going to hire purist UXers because they don't know what they don't know. And also a lot of, in more senior positions, the hiring managers for design leaders aren't designers. So they don't know service design UX to a high level, for example. So they hire a head of visual, like a visual design person as the head of product design UX. And so then it sort of trickles down. And so they'll hire product designers rather than UX.
Yeah, that
just off the top of my head.
Totally makes sense. And yeah, that's what we have now on the market. And thinking about the transition from the previous, I would say quite a bumpy year, I still observe some layoffs on the market. Like, for example, recently, a few days ago, I came across a LinkedIn post. I think it was about Farfetch layoffs. And we still have it. It's still happening. When do you think it stops?
Yeah. So I think for the whole year it's going to be pretty bumpy, in my opinion, because if you look at sort of the world situation, so there's 40 countries this year that have got their presidential elections, and what normally happens there is the markets are bumpy. So that's how companies respond. We don't know what's happening with Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, and it really does affect. I remember there was a client in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. They cut all the hires because the market just went down. So that really affects it. So that's on sort of like that sort of situation. I think also going back to my point around doing more with less. I think a lot of companies, especially Farfetch, if I'm going to be honest, I think they overhired and they had people in roles. I know Farfetch in particular, actually, they had designers in roles where they could have probably not had anyone. And so they just overhired. And now when times are tougher, they got to lean down. The CEO change. That's what happened to Farfetch. Jose Neves left. And so the CEO changed and they're like, why are we spending all this money on design when one person can do what two people are doing? So I think the effects of overhiring in 21 and 2022, we're now seeing the impact of, you look at Google, Facebook, Meta, they all scaled up massively in new projects. And now when they're making that profit, they reduce the cost. And normally talent is the highest cost to a business. So yeah, I think it's going to be bumpy, but I also think there's other, you're seeing all these, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think, yeah, people like, those larger companies, but then you've got startups, which you've never heard of, which are hiring.
Yeah.
The VCs, they're still pushing design hard. I work quite closely with the Google Ventures portfolio. They're still investing in companies. So things are good. I think it's just changing. And I think maybe a topic later in this discussion is how you find a job is changing slightly. And yeah, I don't think it's all doom and gloom, but I think there's always layoffs. There's always layoffs.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, especially thinking like last year was really, like I would say the year of layoffs because it happens everywhere. And despite this, like last December was quite empty in terms of new roles and what's happening on the market. But even now, like January, February, I see there are a lot of new open roles on the market, more companies, and as you mentioned, like new companies, new startups, or even like mid-market, but people weren't aware about these mid-market companies. They didn't know about them, and now we have them on the market. They're looking for new designers. So yeah, it's definitely growing, getting better, and yeah, absolutely agree with you about this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was looking at a question, but I got distracted. Yeah, no, there is a lot of roles on the market. There's a lot of designers on the market, and then I think that the main challenge of hiring, as I see from an external perspective, is companies then feel that you can wait around to find the perfect person that matches 10 out of 10 the requirements, and so they take longer to hire. And yeah, there's I think matching designers to the right opportunities and is really seems very difficult for some companies at the moment.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I see there's a lot of questions in the chat, but yeah, we'll have some time in the end, so we'll jump back to them. One question, have you already mentioned about junior designers, that it will be even harder for them? Because it always was hard for junior designers to land a job because they don't have a lot of experience, and to gain this experience, they need to start working, and companies didn't want to hire them. What do you think? How can they navigate this complex market now? What they can do to be more successful? I don't know, finding some internships or finding more like underpaid roles just to jump into this, I would say, train of jobs and starting getting experience.
Mm-hmm. I think the junior market, I'm not really as up to date and as with data and stuff like that. But I think what I used to say, and I think still goes, like it's the reality of it is it's a volume based approach here, because not everyone's going to be hiring juniors, and I think being smart with how you approach people online, LinkedIn, job specs, whatever it is. I think make sure that you're following up. I think LinkedIn, building sort of a brand on LinkedIn is all the rage right now. And I think it's more about, it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you sometimes. So I think, going to ADP lists, Alex, I know you're a mentor there. I'm sure you can talk about, meeting great mentors and asking them for referrals, going to events, all that kind of stuff. I think I've seen quite a few internship roles, especially in the US. I don't know about you, but you could probably answer that better than me in terms of what juniors can do and what you've seen their approaches.
Yeah, true. There's still lots of opportunities, and if there are like not many roles on the market, there's still opportunities to connect with the industry, to connect with more senior folks, to learn from them. You mentioned ADP list, and junior designers can find mentors, they can get more skills, they can start freelancing, getting more experience, getting different projects. They can show, they can present. And I would say networking is really powerful thing, especially nowadays, where we have this like very complex market, and networking, collaborating with different people, different fields can definitely help designers especially junior designers, to navigate this. But also I could say that networking is the key. I know it's not like the topic of our discussion today, but networking is really helpful. And by networking, we still can land a job. We can be connected with the right hiring manager, with the right recruiter, and by just networking, we can get on board. We can get this folks.
Yeah. What I'd say about recruiters and working as when you're a junior to mid sort of designer, often they're not the most useful in terms of finding you a role, because ultimately recruiters are briefed with harder niche roles, and companies only need to post there, look for a junior designer, and they'll get thousands of applications. But I think good recruiters can help, advising on portfolios and how you can sort of position yourself. In terms of like with the portfolio, I think a recruiter can help you position to a company. But if you're looking at the nitty gritty of building a portfolio, I definitely would not advise a recruiter advising you. I would go to someone like Alex, on ADP list who can, show a good process-driven portfolio.
Yeah, that makes sense. And here we come to the opposite side, I would say, behind the scenes of hunting a job. Because as designers, we quite familiar with what's happening on our side. How do we hunt the job? How do we explore all these open roles? But what's hidden? And when you're looking for a designer, what does your process look like?
So it depends, obviously, on the type of designer, but a few things. So Verified, we have our invite network, right? So when we bring someone into the network, we interview them without job in mind. It's more just like, let's determine where this designer is in terms of like junior, mid, senior, any improvement, so we can more accurately determine to a client where they could be a good fit. So for example, product design, we're looking at design skill set, obviously. So UX, interaction, visual design, motion, whatever it is, and we can sort of determine there. Product development, so can they speak the language of the business? Can they always be looking at ROI within product? How they're working with product managers, engineers, that product thinking ability, and then also team. So what they like as a human being for a start. How do they like to work with engineers, products, wider business stakeholders? Have they worked in sort of more political organizations? What type of designer are they? So do they thrive in small teams? Do they thrive in big teams? Because I think that's a really big thing. So that's a little bit about how we sort of base our selection. What I'm seeing, because we also help companies internally, so run their recruitment process. And there was one role recently where it was just like a lead product designer, and it had over 700 applicants. And the only one that really stood out to me was one that was quite a straightforward portfolio, but they took the time to actually write a detailed cover letter, and like why they would actually be a good fit for this client. Because what I'm seeing a lot of designers is like quick apply on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And there's no, and it's really, there's nothing that's standing out. And so really standing out in the process is a really important thing. I'm also looking at where this person has worked, what references have they got, and like who can vouch for them, but also what business impact have they had? Because ultimately we're all designing for companies here and making profit often. So like what business impact have they had through their design skills? And then also other things like natural curiosity, how they're using their design skills for greater impact in the world. Stuff like that. And it's not, and I don't feel, it's just a job for someone. Because I think often designers get into the design industry because they love design. They believe design is going to change the world through design, right? So, and that's what I'm looking for, that spark, that excitement.
That's
I'm sure
really
there's
impressive. And that's super great. You mentioned this like 700 applicants, and this is crazy. Thinking about like as a designer, thinking about how can I stand out from these 700 applicants. It's really, I would say, it's really competitive market nowadays. And what's your advice for designers to stand out? What they can do, except like their experience or some quite unique experience, because nowadays, like in the era of AI, if people has AI in the experience, I would say definitely give them like +1 to their job search. But how other designers could stand out?
Okay, so firstly, making sure the LinkedIn is up to date, and the LinkedIn is almost like the sticky landing page. you want people to go in there and think, well, this person has done. It's almost like an interactive resume, of course, a very detailed like description of impact that they've made, and it's very easy to read. You can see if they've posted any articles, blogs, or they comment, and you don't necessarily need to write loads of blogs and articles, but are they interacting with the wider design community? Have they worked at nice, good brands? And if they're not like the most recognizable brand, but making it clear like what they did and etc. Resume, very basic resume, just enough to get through the ATS. And then portfolio. Oh God, we've not even touched the portfolio topic. Oh wow. Portfolio is definitely one that shows, in my opinion, I don't like to see too much text. Ones that have like really clear, like 3 case studies, a little bit about them, what they did, what the business impact was, some nice visual, definitely visual design, visual portfolios, even if you're a UX person, is really important, because a lot of hiring managers are not designers, and they appreciate visual. And then clear business impact, and then you apply. But I also think a cover letter for me is actually really, I personally read them. Every person's going to tell you something different, but I think a cover letter or a direct message, or somehow how you can get through to the company of like, this is who I am, this is why I think I'm good for your company, this is what I think success will look like with me in the role. Something like that would be, for me, stands out. But not everyone does cover letters because they don't think it works. But for me, I appreciate it. But everyone's going to tell you something different. So take my word with a pinch of salt, of course.
Yeah, definitely cover letters. We have a question about cover letters, and do anyone read in cover letters nowadays? It's a good question. And I also think that we should stand out. We shouldn't write this A4 paper cover letters describing like everything, but cover letter is a good chance to stand out. It could be just a small single paragraph, but this can help you to stand out, to attract attention to the things you want to attract attention to.
Absolutely. Cover letter is not a copy and paste document, 2-page doc, right? This is a couple of lines, like, so I am, this is the impact I've had, this is how I'm going to affect your company, this is why I love your company, here's an idea for your company. I spoke to what was his, on LinkedIn briefly, the Gumroad guy, Sahil Lavinga or something, and he put out like, people that he had over 2,000 applicants or something, and he just liked to see someone reaching out to him and say, on a Loom video, I love your company, this is what I would do, have you thought about this? And it was like, wow, like they're actually going out of their way to think about. For me, I think that stands out. It takes longer to do, but if you do 10 of those a week where you've really gone into detail compared to 100 randoms, I think that will be a more effective strategy for sure. This is the reason why we're in the mess of like 1,000+ applicants is because LinkedIn made it easy to do a quick click apply. I think that's why we're in this bit of a mess.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of good tips for designers, like how to stand out, how to apply, and all this stuff is really cool. Just example from my career, when I remember like many years ago, I tried to get to London, I tried to find a job, and I had one CV, and I was sending over this CV, one same CV, to all the companies, like 100 companies, and the conversion rate was around 0. Honestly, like no one wanted to talk to me. But if you tailor it, if you won't say like, if you will not say like send 100 applications, if you will send 10, but these 10 will be specifically tailored for the specific company, for their job description, what they're looking for, what can you exactly bring on board, like what was your impact. It will definitely increase this conversion rate into applications and finally in the job offer.
Yeah, no, I was literally about to say pretty much the same thing. I completely agree. And I'm sure there's a smart way through AI you can do that as well. Like, here's the requirements for, I don't know, Google's UX role. AI will probably be able to, and I'm sure it will on ChatGPT or something, put
Yeah.
your resume into exactly that. And that to Lewis's point, I think that will get you through the ATS if you can actually tailor your CV to every approach. Because unfortunately, internally, most of the time, the person that looks at your resume to determine if the hiring manager even sees you is someone that does not understand design. It's very rare you have a design recruiter internal. They're often tech or product, not really. They don't understand the nuances of design, so they can't see the potential sometimes. So you do have to dumb it down.
Yeah, definitely.
Like for example, if I was hiring and I saw Intercom on the resume, I'd be like, oh, they're strong in design, I'm going to just prioritize that person. Whereas someone who is in business recruitment would not maybe get that.
Yeah, that's really so. And this example about like 700, 1,000 applicants, I think this is a good sign what's happening on the other side, because usually designers are quite frustrated when they don't receive like personalized messages from recruiters, when they don't receive like any feedback at all. I think it answers this question, why? I don't want to like say that it's good to ignore like designers. No, it's definitely not. But at least we can use our design empathy and try to understand these people who has like 700 applicants, and they need to go through each of them and providing like feedback to each of them. It sounds really, really, really crazy. And yeah,
It's not going to. It's not going to happen. Like, there's no way I'm replying to 700 people. There's no way. I've got a business. I've got to place people to make revenue to pay the bills. Like, there's just no way that you can get back to 700 people. You'd be there a week. So yeah, I do. It is frustrating. I think LinkedIn and these job boards that have made it so easy to apply have just added to the noise massively. So any other ways that you can get into these companies, often referrals are a great way, especially more the smaller companies. The larger companies, they'll still make you go through the process, but any other way you can get in is always ideal.
Yeah. We already talked a little bit about series, portfolios, and how to stand out. But also what's important, I think, is this kind of collaboration between the designer, between the applicant and the recruiter. And as a designer, like I always consider this type of collaboration because it could be helpful, because recruiter is interested to fill the role, and I'm as a designer interested to get into this role. So based on your experience, how can people, like both designers and recruiters, make this collaboration better, improve it, and get best what they can get from it?
That's a great question. I think from the designer side. So for example, if you see a post on LinkedIn, recruiters looking for such and such, and they've outlined, and they tell you to email them, don't message them on LinkedIn. Don't, if you see that the requirements are for a UX product designer and you're a UI designer, don't, it's likely you're not going to get the response because you don't meet the requirements. What I would say is always best to look for a job when you're in a job. You can take the time to really filter out who the best recruiters are and the ones that are actually going to care about your career. The best time to speak to a recruiter is when they don't have any live roles that you're suitable for, so they can remember you. Like, for example, at Verified, we speak to designers who aren't necessarily looking for work right now. So when we then reach out to them when there's a live role, and so we know they're going to be a good fit. They might be looking, for example. So I think taking the time to just meet and network with recruiters is always good, and don't work with too many. I think maybe max 3 to 5, depending on where you are in your career, will be a good start for sure. I think from the recruiter side, the biggest challenge I think agency recruiters have now, so external recruiters, is there's a lot of the market slowed down for designers, so have the suppliers, right? So recruitment companies, agencies. So when they've got pressure from their agency to make money, unfortunately, I think the customer experience, the experience goes out the window. It's like, because almost like desperation. Oh my God, we've got to fill this role. You know, I don't have time to get back to that person. This person's perfect. So I think having some sort of like empathy for like where the recruiter's situation what they might be in. The recruitment industry is suffering a lot in tech, I believe. So just understanding a little bit more about how it works and how their world works, but just getting in front of them as much as you can, comment on their posts, just getting to know them. The best, I like, for example, I've placed a few people 4 or 5 times. I just know them, and it comes naturally over time. But also take ownership over your own job search as well. Don't just rely on recruiters to find you a job, because, you know, right now there's a lot of companies who are not, they can't afford to work with external recruitment companies. So they're doing it themselves. So have that in mind, that, you know, take ownership. If you're actively looking and you've got, you know, you're at work for whatever reason, yes, recruiters can be a good tool, but not the only tool. It's like a funnel of like things that you've got to work on through. So like, you know, direct applications, recruitment, agencies, your content, so inbound leads. But yeah, I think that covers most of it. I'm not sure, maybe if you've got any other questions on that topic.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's really great, deep, to have like to own your career, to own your situation, and use multiple tools to achieve your goal, to find this job. And usually, like when I'm getting a new job, open to work, I always leave it on LinkedIn. I don't know if like good from another side, so recruiter can contact me like all the time, seeing that I'm open to work. But for me as a designer, it really helps to see like what's happening on the market, what do we have, like what are open roles, and at this time, like I reply to every single recruiter who reach out to me, and we just have like, we could have a call, we could have a small talk, but it helps to build this network, and it helps to build this like basic relationship.
Yeah, and then over time you'll start to see there's 2 or 3 that keep coming back.
Yeah,
and it's not because you know, recruiters are just not getting back to you, and they often just don't have the roles for you, like, you know, and that's fine. So you just got to go and find the ones that you feel a genuine connection with. Like, there'll be some designers out there, I'm sure, that like they won't reach out to me because we've had an interaction and it wasn't maybe as smooth, and there's other recruiters out there for them, which is great. There's so many recruiters out there, there's so many designers out there, like there's so much business for everyone. Yeah, that's how I would see it.
Yeah, despite the situation on the market is tough, there are still a lot of opportunities, and we just need to reach out to them. And yeah, it's everything is possible. You also mentioned this thing about empathy, and I personally really love it, because I think that it's a part of our design job to have empathy to our customers, to have empathy to our company, to have empathy to business. But yeah, it's interesting to see that very often on LinkedIn, designers blame recruiters that they didn't reach them out, they didn't do that or that. But what about empathy? Yeah, we should have empathy here.
Yeah.
We should step into the shoes of recruiters and to think about it.
Yeah, like, look, we're all human people. We're all humans having human experiences, right? We're all like, recruiters, designers, titles aside, we're all dealing with our own problems. Yes, some people might not get back to you on LinkedIn. That doesn't make them a bad person. That doesn't mean all recruiters are bad. It doesn't mean all designers are bad if they don't get back to you, or they don't respond to your, you know, can I work on this role kind of thing. Because what will happen is there's a lot of recruiters that will reach out to you when you're hiring, and then you reach out to them when you look for a job. Oh, there's no response. But it's not because they are bad people. They might just be under pressure somewhere, or, yeah, and I think just having empathy for everyone is key. I'm huge on that. It could go a lot deeper, but it wouldn't even be about design. But we're all human beings having human experiences.
Yeah, that's the key. We're all human beings, and we should have like relationships as human beings, and don't think about recruiters as robots or these like ATS. And they're all people. We're people too, so we should collaborate as people.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, let me give you an example, right? Let me give you a vulnerable example here. Like, for example, in 3 months' time, I have to place a certain amount of people to literally make revenue so I can pay my bills. Like, that's literally the pressure that some recruiters are under. And so for people to have that empathy for that other side, I never hear about people actually understanding what recruiters have to go through, especially business owners in recruitment, all that kind of stuff. It's not like it was 2 years ago. So I think just having that perspective, I think would be great. And then also because like we talk a lot about designers looking for work and everyone's helping designers, which we absolutely should. There's other people in design that aren't designers that have been affected by this. Recruiters being one, agencies being one. And just want to bring awareness to that.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. So let's try to narrow down this into talking to designers, like for the first time. When you meet a designer, you have this assumption, you feel that this designer will be a good fit, first of all. And then you started talking to them, like for example, first screening meeting. What are the red flags which signal you that, well, this designer they will not suit the role?
That we just not. So you've met them, and then the red flags that you're like, actually, I don't think it'll be a good fit.
Yeah.
Okay. I think many things, not necessarily all bad on them about their skill set and all that kind of stuff, but just a few sort of general red flags. I think people who can't explain the short role, like can't even get my words out. The short period of time they've been in roles, like many times. So if you see someone that's been in a role for 7 months, 9 months, 10 months, 1 year, and they're not a freelancer, I would be concerned, and I would ask, why. And if they can't really explain properly, that would be a bit of a red flag for me. I think, especially in startups, if you're hiring for pre-seed, Series A, B, they often want to see people that have got longevity because it's a scrappy startup and they need people who are all in and don't want people that will leave. When it comes to what I also do as well is for design leadership roles, but I think everyone that speaks to a recruiter is gonna put on their best show. I'm brilliant, the team was great. But then actually asking anyone that that's worked with that person what they actually truly like, if I then get some red flags there, I'm like, okay, that's a bit concerning. Because I think that's asking your peers what they like to work with is key. Other red flags would be in the portfolio would be too much we, not I did this or I did that. And so being able to tangibly explain what you did, not what the team did. Obviously, you were part of a team is important. What other things? Communication, lack of communication. If you're late to a meeting and don't apologize, or you don't explain, and you just pull it off, and then you don't turn up to the next meeting, and just really poor communication. You don't get back. You're not really that bothered. I don't want to work with people like that, because I think it shows a lack of respect to the process and ultimately the company. So just stuff like that.
I'd say. Cool. You mentioned one really good point about portfolio and showing what exactly you did rather than we as a team. Because very often, especially when I talk to my mentees, they mention that, well, I want to show that we were as a team and I work as a team, and it's not me, so it's we as a team. But I also have given this advice to my mentee that in portfolio you need to show your exact impact. What did you do? And what was your like zone of responsibilities? For example, your product manager could run some interviews with customers, but what did you do at that time? Could you, I don't know, you could write like some summaries, or you could create some concepts, but yeah, show exactly what did you do through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the tangible impact to the business as well, being one? Yeah, because I think that's especially if you're speaking to a non-design stakeholder who's hiring you, they want to know that, because ultimately they're like, how is this person going to make me look good? If you're speaking to a CTO, CPO, CMO, it's like, how's this person going to help me get to my goals ultimately? Because no, I think your advice, Alex, is spot on as always.
Yeah, awesome. So I think it's time to move to the next quite exciting topic. What's coming next?
Okay.
And yeah, about design hiring trends. What will happen? Because one of the trends I see now, like we already discussed this, that companies need more generalists rather than specialists. And we see this narrowing down into end-to-end designer who can do everything. I also noted the thing about design management, I would say leadership, that purely design managers who have like less open roles and have more roles as designers, like lead designers who can lead people, but at the same time who have hands-on something.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, I definitely see more roles for principal staff level ICs, because often companies are right now thinking, oh damn, like 5 years time, are we even going to be relevant because of AI and stuff like that? So they're rapidly thinking and building new products and stuff like that, and they often can't hire, junior to mid-level designers, and they need people that can just execute, get the work done, and don't necessarily then need just managers to manage the team, because there's less people and stuff like that. And companies really want to see the ROI, but the mature companies can really explain what design management do, but companies that maybe aren't as mature in design don't see the value of too many design managers.
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing, especially in like the SaaS world, design engineers being very popular actually. So people who can code and design are like really in demand for like dev tooling companies, B2B SaaS, like really complex UI interactions. So I think if you can demonstrate design engineering, essentially, like you're in demand for sure.
Yeah, sounds great.
And then I think there's definitely people who are very good at visual design and end-to-end design they are just in demand. And the people that I want to say concerned for, but I think people that may be struggling a little bit more and really need to think outside the box, and there's less companies hiring. Purist UX research is definitely not as big on as it was like 21, 22, but IA, UX, there's just not service design. There's just not as much happening at the moment, but I am hopeful in the future it will return to its like 2021 levels. But I think it's just the reality of the situation we're in the economy. Yeah. We are in a winter economy, and often design is one of the first to go, but it's often the first to come back.
Yeah, and I think
so do more with less.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so the theme of tonight, do more with less.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely we need a poster with this.
Yeah.
Because we can see like what's happening right now, and it seems like the job will be transformed, like the product design role will be changed, because what we have like in 2021 and now we have like AI, we will have more in the future, definitely. And this like very popular fear from designers that will AI replace us? Well, I personally think no, it won't. But if you can be on this trend, if you know like how to use AI for your job, if you know how to be still on demand on the market with this new skill set we have right now. So yeah, definitely we need to think
Yeah,
more.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's a tool, right? It's a tool.
Yeah.
And I think as you can, I think certain design topics like content design. So I worked with a founder of a company called, actually no, sorry, I can't explain the company, an education company, and basically the CEO is a 9-figure business, and he said we've cut 70% of our content design team. We've seen no downside of doing that because of AI. So I think content design is a bit different, but yeah,
Yeah, we still will
it's just a
have
tool.
these like skills.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So, also one interesting topic about this transformation. I already came across a couple of companies who just get rid of the product managers because they have product designers. And I see that now designers getting more into product management things. What do you think about it? Will these two roles, I don't know, merged into one? Not in the nearest future. It will not happen like within a year or two, I think. But yeah, what do you think about this possibility?
I've definitely seen more of it, and I think often designers who are more strategic designers, so like very good at product thinking, that kind of stuff, can do the product management role to a degree,
Yeah,
whereas product managers don't really. They often come from more like analytical backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, and they don't have that innate creativity that designers have that you can't teach. So I think it's easier for designers to do product roles like combo rather than product do design roles. If that makes sense. So I'm
yeah,
definitely seeing a blend. There was a client actually recently, a Series A, been going for about 5 years. They have no PM, but designers are making product decisions, which is cool through that design thinking lens. So yeah, I've definitely seen more of it. I do see the value in product, but that whole product versus design relationship can be super toxic.
yeah, definitely. And I remember, like in the beginning of my career, we all always struggled to find this balance between product manager and product designer. What should we do? What should product managers do? But now, especially with this AI power, I think as designers, we can automate a lot of stuff, a lot of routine stuff, I would say, like analyzing thousands of customer calls, analyzing all these insights. We can do it super quickly within a couple of clicks. And we have like
Yeah,
a bunch of free time, and we can use this time to think more about the strategy, to think more about the business, and getting like some of this like from product managers.
yeah, 100%.
Cool. So we have around 10 minutes, and that was a really great conversation. I think we can jump into answering some questions because we have lots of them. And I see one is quite interesting. I'll show it on the screen. How important are portfolios and detailed case studies for people in leadership roles?
Yeah, great shout. So I think portfolios are definitely a must in leadership, but just they're just different. So instead of looking at the pixel perfect design or process or a product design project, it's more what was like when you came into the organization, where was design maturity, and then when you left, where was it, what were the key steps that you did? So who did you hire, what roles did you implement, like did you add content design, service design, design systems, what was the impact of that, your team, maybe a little bit about your team's work, things around how you unblocked design and moved design further up the sort of the levels. Basically all the things that design leader will do should be on there. So more of the, like, yes, you made things like design leaders make things look better, like tighter, better, design led org, but also was there more around like the why of design? So moving more into like embedding design thinking across the wider organization. stuff like that. Did you work on how did you attract the best talent in the market? What agencies did you work with to get to a certain high standard or something like that? And then also like anything around P&Ls, how you manage those. The business of design basically should be in a leadership portfolio. Obviously, it's going to vary if it's a head of, director, VP, SVP, chief level, but stuff like that. The business of design. How do you unblock like your team to do their best work?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for answering. I'm just looking through other cool questions. Yeah, we had another one about design leadership, but you already answered this. It's super cool. Yeah, good question about the length of cover letter, but yeah, we covered this. Let me check what else. If you still have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment. And yeah, we still have some time. Another question about if anyone reading cover letters, but yes, and we have like it. At least don't read these things, and that's important. So think about cover letters and yeah, how to stand out.
I think there's one here around salary ranges. So I've noticed some companies offer mid-rate range or less for senior titles. Yeah. I actually made a post about this I think yesterday. I said, if you're less than 65K as a senior product designer, you're underpaid in the UK. And I actually agree. I really do agree with that, and equivalent around the world in their respective currencies. I think a lot of companies know they need design, but they don't understand the true business value of design. So often the companies that are underpaying are the ones that are very immature in design. So you'll see that a lot. And I just said, look, if you're going to underpay someone in this market, in a year or two, you're going to lose your team. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people trying to underpay. There was even one role the other day that was like equity only. I was like, how's that going to work? And like people who are like advantage of the market, I would avoid at all costs.
Yeah, definitely.
A good senior so as I say, a good senior product design. And obviously we're talking about digital product design. We're not talking about industrial design. We're not talking about packaging design or brand design, digital product design. A good solid senior role is around 70 to 80K in the UK, like 5 to 6 years experience.
Yeah, that's great to have these tangible, concrete numbers, because I remember the other day, like, I think it was a recruiter, they reached out to me looking for a lead product design role, and the salary was around 45K. And I was like, wow, it's like, it's the salary of a junior. Why? How do you want to find like a person to this role?
Yeah, especially if you've been Intercom. So I know Intercom pay very well. So yeah, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. 45K for a lead is almost not even half. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true.
Just looking here, other questions.
I think this one is interesting. Do you have specific preference for portfolio website over a PDF or anything else?
I honestly don't mind. I think it's whatever works best for you. I think a website's often nice if you're adding articles and stuff like that. But there's also like really good tools out there now, like pitch.com, where you can make a really nice pitch deck of yourself, and it's a PDF. So it really doesn't bother me. I think a website's nice if you're like you're like an event and you just go text someone your website link. It's always nice. But for me, it's here or there, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, cool. That's really good insight because
yeah. Oh, sorry. I was going to say often PDF can actually be better if your work is under NDA.
Yeah, and they could be challenging when we can't just highlight everything. And yeah, we can use like passwords, hidden links. We can use PDF, and Personally, I noticed this theme on the market that it seems like companies prefer more when you have a site, a standalone website. I don't see like much difference because my previous portfolio was in Notion and it worked like pretty well. I got my job at Intercom with portfolio in Notion. Like recently I moved it to a separate like website, but it just to stand out more because I think especially on the current market, like we need to stand out. And we can use websites like to show our visual skills, to show who we are as designers. And as you mentioned, like these visual skills are on demand now. And it's quite interesting because previously we had this like UX focused, I would say, everywhere. And now it seems like we're finding this balance between UX and visual design. And we getting to understand that it works both all together. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's one question here, maybe to finish off on. I don't know who it's from, but I think it's probably from Silka. But what are the major differences in job search for an IC versus design exec? Is it good to do complex design?
Yeah. Good question.
Well, okay, so great question. How long have we got? So I think the main differences from the client side is the level of complexity that you do, like how you conduct a search. So for example, an IC role, senior to lead, you have a very detailed job briefing, what does success look like, all that kind of stuff. And then you go out and find the person, then you submit. And normally that process can take 2 to 3 weeks. Like that should be, I always say that to clients, you should be able to fill a role for an IC within 3 weeks if all the conditions are right. With executive search, it's a little bit different because firstly, you conduct like the market mapping exercise. So often if you're recruiting for a chief design officer role, which like I am, for example, at the moment, it can take between 4 to 6 months. For example, you do the market mapping exercise. So often it's a succession plan from a current chief design officer or design executive. They'll have their input. But then basically you map out, you go do a global map of where you think the best design execs are. And then you conduct like a short list. And then you condense it down into, 3 people for an interview. Often these people are interviewing with CEOs, CFOs, very busy, getting times in their diaries. The process can take longer. And then often at the end, the design executive will have a 6-month notice period, which is huge. So end to end actually can take over a year. And then a big part of the design executive role in the first 6 to 12 months is actually the succession planning from the previous person. So it's just a more of a complex search. Often you are not getting the chief design officers reaching out. They don't want people that have just reaching out. You are proactively headhunting. This is the difference from sourcing to headhunting. You are actively going after. You identify with the CEO. We want someone from PepsiCo. We're going to go after Mauro Puccini. And then you actually go after that person. So it's very different to, 5 people have reached out. I'm using Mauro as an example because I think Mauro is quite a famous CDO.
Yeah, awesome.
And often, just to note as well, often, companies want people from a similar background. So for example, automotive, whereas ICs, you can sort of go around different ones, like different industries. And yeah, it's just a lot more of a complex search. I forgot what else I was going to say. It's been a long day. The recruitment world is mad. So I'm tired. I'm going to CrossFit now. So yeah,
Yeah,
this is my last call of the day.
That's great. So we still have some questions, and I would encourage people to follow Tom on LinkedIn because he usually posts very valuable, very insightful content about job market, hiring new roles, and all that stuff. So yeah, just stay in touch and see what's happening. And yeah, Tom, thank you so much for joining. I think it was really, really insightful, lots of tips. And yeah, I think if I would in the position of looking for a job, I would definitely make like notes after this conversation with lots of useful tips we can practically use. So yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just add one thing, like, to go away, and
Yep.
it's not around design, but I think often when we're looking for a job, or, you know, people are looking for new business, and we can really attach our self-worth to the outcome. But I'd like to just say, like, your self-worth does not, it's not attached to your job status, the amount of money you earn. And I think really going inside yourself and really figuring out what your mission and purpose is, and releasing that energy back into the world, will naturally attract the great job. So yeah, just like sending like my best and like prayers to anyone that's, like, you know, looking for work and worried about the financial situation, because it's tough times. So yeah, just all the best, and like anything I can do to help, please, you know, reach out, and email is preferable. So it's on my LinkedIn, and go from there. But yeah, thank you so much, Alex, for the conversation.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. Have a good
All right.
evening. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.